it's Zion Prepper here, and I'm going to do a quick video. We were doing some outdoor hiking this weekend, and the weather was pretty wet, and we were with some people, and they were having a hard time starting a fire. And as I was thinking through this, and I helped them to start a fire in the rainy weather, was a lot of people, including myself, it probably would not hurt to go back to Fire Making 101. So, first of all, when we go back to Fire Making 101, we have to remember there are 3 things that are required to make a fire. It's the triangle. Just like I have the survival triangle, there's the fire triangle. You have oxygen, the air we breathe, in other words. You have fuel, in other words, the wood, the leaves, the straw, anything that can burn to create heat is required, fuel. And then you have an ignition source. And you can have several different ignition sources. You can have a bow drill. You can have a flint, you can have a Ferris rod, you can have matches, you can have a lighter. So there are both man-made and natural ways to start a fire. So what I want to go back to is just basically the fundamental ways to start a fire if you are, in an area where you need to. And even if you don't need to, it's just a lot of fun. So we know what is required: oxygen, fuel, and an ignition source. The next thing we need to start the fire is we need tinder, kindling, and fuel. So the tinder is any material that lights almost with one spark if you're using a Ferris rod, or with one match if you're using a match, obviously. Once the tinder is lit, the tinder has to be able to ignite the kindling. And that's bigger pieces. In the case today will be sticks or wood. And then once the kindling is lit, it has to be able to light the fuel wood. And then once you get to the fuel wood lit, you can put as much or as little as on as you want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do that. And so you know what we do in our backyard. In various different types of weather, I will grab the kids and say it's snowing here. And obviously I make sure they're warm and they're not in harm's danger. But I might take it, not let them wear their jacket. I'll say, go start a fire in the backyard, even though it's snowing. And for them, it's fun. And number 2, it gets the point across that you have to be able to start a fire in numerous weather situations. You can't just expect the sun to be out where you have all the time in the world. That's why yesterday they were out here starting a fire in the rain. And they like it. It's fun. So get your kids or you yourself, go in the backyard in different weather conditions. When it's snowing, don't wear your gloves. Try and get that fire started, because it can be rather difficult and rather challenging. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, right now I'm gathering kindling, and what I'm doing is using the dead leaves on the tree, the dead branches on the trees, and you can see it snaps. It's dry. Now if I were to get the stuff off the ground right now, any of this material off the ground, it'd be wet because of the rain last night. So in any survival situation, unless you're in the summertime and you know that the tinder and kindling and fuel wood on the ground is dry, typically start with a tree, and then start at the bottom of the tree, and then you can work your way up to grab any of the small sticks or limbs that are dead. One item that I always carry in my hiking or bug out bag is a hatchet, and this one is a Gerber, and it does exactly what I need it to do. It's not too heavy for my pack, but yet it's not as functional as a lot of the others, but for what I need, it does very well. And then the nice thing I like about it is in the handle of the hatchet is a nice little saw that I use constantly. You can see how wore out it is, to cut dead wood off of the trees when I'm trying to start a fire, especially in the middle of the winter time when it's snowing or has snowed. Okay, I have my tinder and my kindling done, and let me show you what the tinder is. Let's start with the tinder. I got some dead pine needles, and you got to make sure they're dry. And the second thing you have to make sure is when you're using them, you do not use too many of them, because they will smother and they actually won't ignite. They'll just sit there and smother, not get hot enough, and allow the fire to light. The second thing I have is kindling, and I'm starting off from small pieces, which are right here. See how small those are? Then I'm going to put on bigger pieces, which is right here. And then I'm going to work up my way to the bigger pieces, and then to fuel wood. Then fuel wood are the bigger pieces you use to actually keep the fire burning, in my case, throughout the night. These are smaller branches because I'm not going to start a big fire. But if I needed to, I could cut bigger branches off of a tree and use that as fire. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a teepee fire. And a teepee fire, in my opinion, when I'm out in the timber, is one of the most fundamental fires to do. It's the most reliable. It gets actually takes a spark pretty well, especially when you're using pine needles, and you're able to get your kindling and your fuel wood lit pretty pretty quick so that you can get nice hot coals to cook on, or you can get the heat for the warmth. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is start working on our tinder, and we're going to put it as part of our fire here. But I was just, in my garden, I had, I think these were a type of tomato, and as a prepper, you're looking to use any resources you have, and I stumbled across this. It's nice and dry, and it would make a wonderful, wonderful tinder. And what you could do is just take your knife and scrape it up, and as I scrape it up, you can see what is forming there. And that is nice, because that, oh look at that, that will light very easy. Boy, that'd take one spark, and look at that, I could get that going in no time at all. Okay, so we got that. That's going to be my tinder. Now what I'm going to do to get the TP fire going, and I'm just going to, remember I'm doing a small one here. Let me just adjust the angle of the camera. I'm just going to take one of my smaller sticks, and this is my kindling. And these are the ones that are going to be real light and catch on fire pretty quick. And I'm just putting 2 of them in the ground at an angle. I'll probably put a 3rd, just because that's the way, I don't know, it's the way I like to do it. And then I'm just going to start putting these over. And what's going to happen is my tinder, if I use this, is going to go in here, right down in here, okay? So I'm just going to put, now remember that because this is small, it's going to catch fire real quick. Okay, let's talk about ways to start a fire. And there are several different ways. You have bow drills, you have hand bow drills. There's a lot of natural ways using nature to do it. Obviously that's a harder way, so let me go through some of the ways I use. This is called a blast match, and basically what it does is you put it here and you push this down here and it creates a spark. I'm not going to do that, right? The second way obviously is matches. Now these are all the ways I carry in my bug out bag to start a fire. Okay, here's twine. I always carry twine, and what you can do with twine is take the end of these, end of some twine, spread it apart, and you'll see 3 strands. Continue to pull those apart, and it'll make literally like a bird's nest, kind of like this. It'll make a bird's nest, but it'll be twine, okay? The other way that you can do is char cloth. And got to thank Arkansas Prepper, because these are the material he gave us to make char cloth. And char cloth, it will catch 1 spark, and you can catch a spark from either a blast match, a Ferris rod, or any other means. You can use as I mentioned before, a Ferris rod, and this is what a Ferris rod looks like, and you sit there, and that's how you make a spark from a Ferris rod. And then one of my favorites, which I rarely use but my kids really enjoy, is using steel wool and a 9-volt battery. And this baby can get hot, so I'm just going to do it real quick for you. You can see here, 9-volt batteries. You touch it, see how it lights? We'll get rid of that. That's all you have to do to start that. Oh, you say, oh, that's Zion, that's cool. Can you do it again? Sure. Actually, I'm checking the batteries. I found a bunch of batteries in the house, and you make sure they work. Look at that. Okay, so we know we have good extra batteries here. All right, what I'm going to use, and I've always used, and I typically won't use anything but, is my Ferris rod and my knife, which is a SOG. Also, sorry, flint and steel. And this is courtesy of Hillbillies in the Bush. He gave this to me. I use this. I do practice with it. It is one of the harder techniques for me. I do like it, but I'm not good at it. So let's see what we can do to get the fire going. All right, I just felt it was important to show you jute twine, and I told you why I carried it. And you know, you just you can see how it pulls out into 3 or 4 different strands. And what you can do is this, you know, when you get one strand apart, actually this one has 4. You can, you know, there's one of the 4. Just fold it in half. Take my glasses off here. And then what you do is you just pull it out, and you can see how you get this nice material. You just keep pulling it, and you'll get a material like this, and you get the material like this, and then you form that into a bird's nest. So all I'm doing is pulling it apart, and I'm just showing you this because it's important. I'll use it in this fire just for the fun of it. And this stuff will burn. I'm telling you what, it will burn like crazy. And you just keep pulling it apart, and you get this nice fine material that will just ignite in about a heartbeat. Okay, here's what my jute twine bird's nest looks like, literally like a bird's nest. I'm going to put my char cloth in there, but first let's get the char cloth lit. It's right here. You probably can't see it, but I'm just going to spread the char cloth out. Oh, missed it that time. Okay. Our char cloth is lit. Oop. I'm going to fold it up in the bird's nest, put it in here. Now, I'll get my knife out of the way so I don't poke myself. And then here we go.